Internal Revenue Service IRS tax news. Here's how to get the status of an economic impact payment. COVID tax tip 2020-128 September 29, 2020. Eligible individuals can visit IRS.gov, use the Get My Payment tool. There's a link to the Get My Payment tool here to find out the status of their economic impact payment. This tool will show if a payment has been issued and whether the payment was direct deposited or sent by mail. So remember, the economic impact payment is going to be that stimulus type of payment that went out in 2020 based on they based it on when they sent it out, basically the 2019 return if filed, or to the 2018 return if the 2019 return wasn't filed, or if they didn't have that information, they based it on other kind of information they might have, such as Social Security payments, even though the economic payment is linked to, in essence, the 2020 return, which will be filed in 2021. So if you want to check on the status of the payments that have been going out, then you can check the Get My Payment tool to see if the payment has been processed and if the payment has then been sent. In certain situations, this tool will also give people the option of providing their bank account information to receive their payment by direct deposit. Information is updated once a day, usually overnight, so there's no need to check it more than once a day. So if you haven't received the economic impact payment, you might be able to say, hey, I'd like to give it my banking information so that it will be deposited directly into my bank account rather than getting a check. So that could be an alternative. And they're saying that they update it once a day. So if you're looking at it and you want to get the update on it and you keep on checking it once a day, or maybe twice, once in the morning and once in the evening, is basically all you should need there, because that's all it will be updated for. So here are some key things to know about this tool and who can use it. Before using the tool, people must verify their identity by answering security questions. If the answers do not match IRS records after multiple attempts, the user will be locked out of the tool for 24 hours. This is for security reasons. Those who can't verify their identity won't be able to use the Get My Payment tool. If this happens, people should not contact the IRS. So they're saying if you can't use the tool, still don't contact the IRS. If the tool returns a message of, quote, payment status not available, end quote, this may mean the IRS can't determine the person's eligibility for a payment right now. So if it says payment status not available, maybe they don't have the information to process it at that point. So there are several reasons this could happen. Two common reasons: a 2019 or 2018 tax return is not on file and the agency needs more information. So if you didn't file the 2019 return or the 2018 return, they may not have the information, although they might still have picked up that information from other resources such as like Social Security payments. The individual could be claimed as a dependent on someone else's tax return. So if you're claimed as a dependent on someone else's tax return, the dependents are kind of the ones that fell through the crack on this one. You know, if it was a qualifying child, then you could have got a bump up on the $500 for the economic impact payment. But if it was a dependent that wasn't a qualifying child, meaning over 17, then it's quite likely that no payment, no benefit possibly could have happened in that situation. And so that could be the reason as well. So in some cases, if a taxpayer has filed their 2019 tax return, but the IRS hasn't processed it yet, they may receive, quote, payment status not available, end quote. Taxpayers who've already filed a tax return don't need to take any action. The IRS continues to issue economic impact payments as tax returns are processed. So if you didn't file the 2019 tax return and you haven't received the economic impact payment, maybe it's because they hadn't yet received the 2019 tax return and it was postponed. So if you filed it at this point in time, then you should be okay, because the IRS should then be able to pick up the economic impact payment once processed and send that out. And if they don't, then it might be something that gets picked up basically in the 2020 tax return, even though that wouldn't be filed until 2021. So people who aren't required to file a tax return and use the non-filers interpayment info here, there's a link to that tool here, to register for a payment, can check the status of their payment by using the Get My Payment tool. These individuals should wait 2 weeks after submitting their information. If they're required to file a 2019 tax return and they use the non-filer tool, this may delay processing their tax return and their economic impact payment. Recipients of SSA 1099, RRB 1099, SSI or VA benefits may not have filed a return or used the non-filer tool. These people can check Get My Payment for status of their payments if they can verify their identity. So these are the other types of payments that people might be receiving from some kind of government agency, and therefore the IRS knows about them even if they don't file a tax return, which they may not do, because some of these payments are often tax exempt and therefore their taxable income might be below the threshold where they need to file. The IRS should still then be processing their payment possibly based on this information, and you can still check on the status of those economic impact payments in that case. If a benefit recipient has not received their payment, the IRS might need more information. If these individuals can't be claimed as a dependent and aren't required to file a tax return, they should use the non-filer tool. So if someone basically didn't file 2018 or 2019 and they haven't received an economic impact payment, they're not required to file 2019 or 2018 tax return, then they might want to use the non-filer tool to provide the IRS with the information. If you're required to file the 2018 and 2019 tax return, you don't want to use the non-filer tool because that'll confuse the IRS. That's only a tool for people that don't need to file, and then they it's just like an informational type of information tool. So most individuals receive only one payment, but there are some situations where they may receive an additional payment. This includes certain federal benefit recipients of Social Security, SSI, RRB, or VA, who may receive a catch-up $500 payment for each qualifying child. So there was a situation where we had this qualifying child situation which the IRS was trying to pick up, but they based the qualifying child basically on the 2019 or 2018 tax returns, and so that would generally be okay. But then these individuals that they're trying to pick up that don't file a tax return, like a Social Security that have Social Security payments or some other type of payment, they may have a qualifying child, and then the IRS wouldn't know about it, so they would only give out the $1,200 and not the other $500. And so they were trying to pick that up with this tool before they issued the check, but then they issued the check anyways, and then they extended the date for which these individuals can then go in and use the tool in order to say, hey, look, I have a dependent here. I need, I qualify for the added $500. So those individuals then may have received two checks. Other individuals will not be receiving two checks. They'll just get the one check. But in the situation, typically that situation where you have, you got an economic impact payment of the $1,200, and then you had to contact the IRS and tell them, hey, I have a qualifying child, then you might get that pickup payment of two checks, the other $500. The second $500 is not a separate economic impact payment check in that, like, it's a new law or new wave of economic impact payments. It's still the same economic impact payment status. It just got broken out in two formats due to that situation. So Get My Payment tool will show the status of the most recent payment.